Today I'm doing this a bit differently. We are going through Grey Zone Warfare's final Spearhead devlog piece by piece, and I'm going to pause throughout the breakdown what actually matters, what sounds promising, and what could still go wrong. Because this devlog is not just about any other new content, it is about whether zero point 0.4 Spearhead actually fixes the deeper problems in the game.
Spearhead introduces major reworks to the core gameplay loop, progression, vendors, and the in-game economy, along with several new exciting features. In this devlog, we're going to cover all of them, including AI improvements and optimization, so strap in. And make sure
So let's just talk or reiterate about the core game loop, progression, economy, AI optimization. What they what they are telling us right away is that this is the system's devlog, not the flashy one like the previous important ones. What matters here is simple: new guns and content can bring players back once, but progression, economy, AI, and performance are what decide whether people actually stay or not. So for me, this is the real test of zero point 0.4. If these systems land, Spearhead matters. If they don't, then this update risks being another short term sprint.
we've significantly improved the first-time user experience. A brand new tutorial area has been created to help new players understand the basics of Grey Zone Warfare before deploying into Lamang. This area includes an obstacle course, an infirmary tent, and a shooting range. The tutorial only takes a few minutes to complete, and you can absolutely skip it if you prefer to jump straight into the action. To support both the new and returning players, we've also added a detailed in-game field manual featuring more than 110 pages explaining every system and mechanic in the game.
So now
Once you've
let's just
completed
talk about what the new field tutorial and about the field manual. So first, this is the first clear change that they are explicitly saying by taking onboarding seriously. So that matters because Grey Zone Warfare always had a friction for new players, and I remember myself being one of the new players in the game and felt a bit hard understanding and grasping the concepts. So this would this would showcase a proper tutorial area and an in-game manual, which means they know the early experience was a bit too rough and unclear. So I do think this is a good sign, but let's be a bit honest about the 110 page manual. I don't think this would be much helpful in this scenario because good onboarding, what I believe still has to work inside the game moment to moment. I believe that's what would carry the game forward. It should come in as a part of their experience through gameplay rather than reading a manual. But it can often prove a quite good site reference, to be precise.
One of the biggest changes in Spearhead is the complete redesign of the task and the progression systems. The goal here is to create a more replayable progression loop that gives players greater agency and freedom in how they approach the game, giving them a stronger, open world feeling with do whatever you want attitude.
So now
Tasks are
let's
now
just talk about the progression redesign. So this probably seems the single biggest feature in the devlog. The progression structure itself has been redesigned, and that is bigger than just more missions. Main tasks give the story spine, side tasks help push the lore, and contracts seem to build to keep the gameplay loop active in shorter bursts, to be precise. So that is a much better structure than everything feeling like a one big undifferentiated checklist. So if this works, the game starts feeling less like a task conveyor belt and more like an open world progression sandbox. So the obvious risk though is more missions do not automatically mean better pacing.
Also redesigned the tactical map. The map now improves both clarity and navigation. All available tasks are now visible directly on the map, including the approximate location of their objectives. You don't have to rely so much on the third-party tools anymore. Shout out to Tucson, by the way, and his TAC map project. It has been super helpful for the community for the last 2 years, and we're super grateful for it. You can now also accept tasks directly from the map instead of navigating through the tasks or vendor lists. Vendors will now sometimes send attachments through messages, including images that you can open and view. These should provide clues or valuable intel to help you finish your task. As you complete missions and trade items, you earn reputation with vendors.
So let's just talk about the tactical map redesign or the less dependence on third party apps. So I would say this would be one of the weak points that the game developers have worked out on. So any game that quietly relies on a third party tools to make its mission flow understandable has a design gap somewhere, to be precise. I hope you agree to the fact. So the fact that tasks and approximate objectives are now visible in the game is a big quality of life win. So the less a player needs a browser open aside gray zone warfare, the better the game world itself is doing its job. The only caution is that too much hand holding can kill or rob the fun of the game. So that's what my thinking is about that.
Task rewards have also been rebalanced to emphasize more money over items. And this brings us to the next topic: vendors and economy. Your relationship with the vendors now plays much bigger role in your progression. As you complete tasks and trade items, you earn reputation with the vendors, which unlocks new items and equipment. Vendor inventories have been completely reworked and expanded. The goal here is to provide more purchasing options and make progression feel earned, balanced and logical. Each vendor now has more specialized inventory. For example, Handshake focuses primarily on Western military gear, while Artisan specializes in civilian equipment and storage upgrades for your locker.
So now let's just talk about vendor attachments and Intel in messages. So instead of tasks feeling like sterile UI prompts, message attachment with images and clues makes vendors feel more realistic and makes objectives feel more grounded in the world. That I do appreciate is a good direction, though it depends entirely on how it's being executed. If the clues are shallow, players would ignore them and would go right back into the brute forcing objectives.
Containers. Let's move on and talk about the lore now. The lore of Le Mans has expanded significantly. You can now uncover the island's story directly through the environment. We've added 351 new intel items scattered across the world, including magazines, letters, posters, and books. These intel items and enhanced environmental storytelling breathe life into the world of Grey Zone warfare and bring you closer to uncovering the mystery behind the event and Ground Zero.
So let's just see and talk about the tasks spread across the island and the less respawn waiting times mentioned by the developers. So this, to me, sounds a quite direct attempt to fix the game's most annoying old problems over the last 2 years. So, which is everybody getting funneled into the same places. So, if missions are genuinely distributed better, you reduce the overcrowded routes, reduce dead time waiting for enemy respawns, and make the island feel bigger and more alive instead of just being in a few famous hotspots. This could be, I would say, one of the best quite improvements in the update, unless the new spread just turns into a longer travel with the same repetitive objective design.
While we're on the topic of Ground Zero, let's actually talk about it and what happened there. Let's see. Roadside picnic. We're not talking about, and also, and that's all I have to say about that. Now let's have a
Ground
quick look.
Zero teasing that Mark did. So he intentionally mentioned the word roadside picnic, and then there was this a lot of fast loop added to the video, which kind of um, covers up the mystery behind what could have happened and what could have led to the event. So stay tuned for that. I have already done my research on it, and I would like to share with the Grey Zone family what I feel according to me, that might have happened and caused an event, caused a high scale event like Ground Zero. So, so stay tuned for that.
Over the last 2 years, we've done a great deal of work to optimize the game, and we're far from done. In this update, RAM usage will be further reduced by approximately 3 gigabytes. Server performance is currently in its best state since version 0.1, and upcoming improvements aim to further reduce hitches, improve hit registration, and minimize rubber banding. We're also continuing to strengthen our anti-cheat systems. Update 0.4 introduces improvements to wallhack detection and banning process, with additional improvements planned
I
over
would
time.
now like
Naturally,
to
we
talk about one of the best features, or I would say one of the performance oriented features that the developers have discussed here. So that's the RAM reduction, server improvements, and the hit registration. So in the previous patches or updates, we might see a lot of players have been facing what you call a delay in hit registration and frequent crashes, and people looking onto fixes and causing more issues. So this would, I would say, deserves at least a blind trust on the developers. Similar or slightly better performance despite extra visual work, around 3 gigabytes of less RAM usage, stronger server performance, future reductions to hitches, and anti-cheat improvements. They all sound excellent, but the performance task is where the I would feel you might feel that the content of the game becomes a bit more easy to oversell. This has to be tested by actual players under the real conditions before anyone could fully celebrate. So I would say, in short words, let's let the time do the talking regarding that. So it's a bit early to decide and be overjoyous regarding it. So now let's just talk about the integration of DLSS 4.5 and the available FSR support. So this is also one of a forward-looking note, but it would definitely matter for personal computer players. So It tells us that optimization is not stopping at zero point 0.4 and that they are still treating performance and upscaling as one of the active priorities beyond launch. But I do feel this is secondary because player would by far care for raw stability, hit registration, and the flawless or smoothness uh, performance of the graphic menu to be primary compared to the optimization and upscaling because the market seems to be quite fixated on these things, to be precise. So another good news that we have or that we've received from the developers regarding the release dates and support early access is now we have a date, and it's quite self-explanatory regarding what developer Marek has said. So I won't talk much. So let's just all wait for the end of the month, that is the March 31st launch. And if you do have a supporters edition, you are lucky, you would be lucky enough to play or get a preview of the latest zero point 0.4 Spearhead update. So overall, what I think the final devlog paints the picture is like it feels as a system's first update. It's not just more content, but an attempt made to redesign how gray zone warfare is supposed to feel minute by minute. With the strongest points for me being a progression rework, better task delivery, and distribution, reduced dependence on outside tools, the economy and vendor revamping. Or I would say, and on the other hand, I would say the question marks would be how effective would the AI fairness, economy balance, and the real world performance be once the players get in, and things do sound quite solid and good on paper, but as I said before, let time do the talking, and it would be judged by how it feels the moment when the players hit the ground. So that's all I have in my mind to say regarding the final devlog that's been released a couple of days ago by the game developers at Madfinger Games. So let me sign out by saying, so if you like my content, please feel free to like and share and subscribe to my channel Gaming Fangs, where we make game discussions on Grey Zone Warfare come alive. And feel free to share and subscribe to my channel and join the pack. So I'll see you in the next one. Till then, take care. Cheers. Bye.